So we could live without creating meaning, but I don't think humans ever don't create meaning. Even humans who are in the depths of the most nihilistic despair, they're still living in a world that, it's a world where they're feeling like there is no meaning, but that is their grasping of meaning.
Right.
But I was thinking about this, okay, this is a really stupid analogy, but I'm a big dog person.
Yeah.
So, when you love up a dog and you're like, oh, there's a moment where, right, you just do this sort of lovey-dovey thing with the dog, and there's a moment where the dog will inevitably do a kind of discharging behavior where they like shake, or our dogs, just check it out with your dog. Like if it's a really intense interaction, there's probably some moment where the dog does some kind of discharging behavior. So with my dogs, very common is to shake, or the dog will go and get a drink of water. And I've been for a long time thinking, oh, maybe it's just too intense. Like I'm pouring too much love into this little animal, and this is a bad thing. And then my husband pointed out, like, well, when humans love up each other, we can actually use language like, I love you so much, honey. And so we put that huge feeling into words. We stabilize it into like systems of meaning.
Right.
Dogs don't have that.
Right.
So they have to, do something like they have to shake it off. And that's really interesting. Like humans, the heart is really big. It can hold a lot of feeling. Dogs' hearts are huge. We humans, we take that huge feeling stuff and we put it into meaning. And we carry it that way. So we have words, we have thoughts, we have judgments, we have all this stuff. You look at dogs, they take a drink of water, And, we're doing similar things. Because I just think feeling, connecting, relating, it's intense. We think that we're small, much smaller than we are. From a Buddhist perspective, we kind of know this. We know that there's not this single self thing, that we spread, that the relationships and dependent co-arising that like has produced me, it's like it spreads out in all directions. Like this being here is the whole universe. Everything is the whole universe, right? It's all the webs of interrelationships that make any phenomenon. It's infinite, right? This is kind of a fundamental truth of Buddhism, that there's not going to be, this pen as its separate enduring thing. This pen is the whole universe embodied in this pen, and in a very literal way, like all of the elements, all the, it's all these things are interconnected. But we think we're tiny. So, I experience something and I think I don't have a lot of room for it. And so then I like try to hold on to it with a thought and with a shape. And that always causes trouble somewhere down the line.
Right.
Like even if, just because, there are lots of ways it can cause trouble. So I can feel something in my heart and it's like, God, you screwed up. You really screwed up, Lisa. And then I, create like a judgment, and then I feel bad or weird, or I feel I'm alone, nobody likes me, or whatever it is, whatever sort of negative self-judgment, then that's like a whole problem. So, the practice is like, well, how do I open into that feeling? And
even if it's a negative feeling?
Even if the valence is negative, right? How do I open into that? How do I not try to contain it or push it away or cordon it off? How do I just... And then what I discover is, wow, this isn't a threat to the boundaries of this self. I'm big enough to inhabit whatever this thing is. And to me it comes back to, these are like, we try to discharge a lot of stuff that we think is too much for us, just like my dog's going for a drink of water. We're trying to shake it off, a lot of stuff, even good stuff, because it feels too much. But it's not too much. It's only too much because we think that we're small and we have boundaries that can't endure whatever the thing is. I spent a lot of time thinking that I was damaged and broken, and that I needed to fix myself in order to be happy, and that inevitably creates for me a situation where I'm like pushing against part of myself to hold on to the part that is the good Lisa and get rid of the bad Lisa, and that kind of self-division hasn't been helpful. So then how do I work with negative self-talk or framing that is not constructive? how do I open my heart in this moment of suffering rather than further tighten because,
Right.
right? So, and I often think about this in terms of my relationship to physical pain, and so if my, if I have a Charlie horse, if my leg is cramping up, there's a kind of the intensity of Charlie horses and the ways in which, I don't know if you've ever had one, but it's like where you can tell that it's starting to cramp up, and then there's like the panic of I'm getting a Charlie. I don't know if this happens to you. The Charlie horse is coming on. It's like, ah. And I discovered at some point, like, oh, actually, I don't have to panic, and I can just ease into it, and the spasm actually disappears. Universally recommended instructions for Zazen that written by Dogen Zenji, the 13th century founder of my lineage in Zen. Dogen says, dying while either sitting or standing, is sort of in Zazen, is like the pinnacle of kind of Buddhahood. This idea that you could just like, sit in Zazen and say, okay, I'm ready to die now, right? Like, mind, body, it's all clear. So but the Buddha didn't, that's not how he died. He died from tainted meat. We inhabit human forms, and there's karma, and awakening can't be separate from the karma of the being that awakens. So I don't know, I'm not enlightened, I've got Buddha nature like we all do. Is it possible that there's in this human form that you would that all karma would be extinguished and you would just be, pure mind? That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem like what it is to be a human. Now, I can say from my own experience, although my husband might have a different perspective, I think I'm a softer person than I used to be. I think I'm a more loving person than I used to be. I'm definitely more at peace than I used to be. If anyone tells you that, I think, this is my perspective, if anyone tells you that a spiritual practice will take away your pain, I would run away from that person, because I think that, first of all, there's a difference between pain and suffering. When I say I suffer depression, I'm not using the term suffering there in the Buddhist sense. I would say I experienced depression. I don't think spiritual practice is meant to take away pain. I think it's meant to expand our capacity to feel whatever it is in our karma to feel. And then, to assume that this is where like the caste system was so fucked up in India, to assume that the shape of people's lives reflects like whether they, are spiritually advanced or they lived a good life in the past or whatever, so that you could look at someone and say, well, that person, oh, they really are suffering. They must, that person is really poor and they've got mental illness and they, are covered in leprosy or whatever, like that must mean that that's. And the Buddha was really specific about that. He's like, that is, again, it's like, that's none of your business. It's none of your business to like ask, like, why does it look like this? Right. Instead, it's like, okay, so what's the medicine? And the medicine isn't, let me create, I could take, I could just, there are lots of legal and illegal drugs that would keep me in a happy state all the time. That's not the goal. The goal is to have more capacity for this human heart. And this human heart suffers depression, but she also suffers huge joy, and I am who I am. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem to hurt. Just like it's not a problem to experience joy. The problem comes when I'm grabbing on to one set of experiences and I'm pushing away another set of experiences. That's when the problem comes.